pay respects to Black anime legends who dare to edge into the ranks of anime styles that have exploded and taken the world by storm. Anyone can pick up a colored pencil and scribble out another character design, but it's the background beneath the skin tone that codifies these characters into the Black experience. At least for me, this is why every brown-skinned character isn't instantly blackety black for me. They have to prove it. And they prove it with where they're from, their history, their swag, and their struggle, and with their perception of a world that sees them differently. And these are the stories and characters that make me, as a Black woman, feel seen, even if the writer doesn't have the same skin color as me. And when I find out that it's my own people who's behind all of these creations, it's even more of a reason to double down and uplift telling our own stories. So first up on my list of the ultimate Black animation legends has to be the infamous LeSean Thomas, who's been holding down Black-made anime even when anime fans aren't down with him. To this day, we love to reference the Boondocks that made an emblem out of the modern Black American experience, juxtaposed between our historical struggle and provoking leaders. And then there's this privileged millennial cringe of these caricatures of Black celebrity and hood culture, when we all know damn well half of these people were raised in the suburbs. But they had us rolling with laughter and coming back to all of the ratchet shenanigans with this Huey Newton-ass Black Power writing Hotep child who's out here trying to take down white supremacist capitalism from his suburban cul-de-sac, side by side with his wannabe ghetto, gangster, homophobic, super impressionable little brother, and this old head grandfather who will gleefully beat these children into submission, no matter how rebellious they are, even though it looks like Grandpa has a lot of his own toxic traits, despite his indoctrination into Black excellence and respectability politics that you see so often with that older generation. And we keep coming back to this because we, as in we as Black people watching this, we know people who act like this in real life. And it pushes the line comfortably past the comfort zone that all recognize the good, the bad, and the ugly of Black realism, along with the dark humor that got the Black community through very dark times. And through this, the show recognizes the products of all of these generational circumstances for Black American life. Even when it feels like we've made it and we're moving on up, there's still these lingering systems of oppression, as well as problematic internal community issues that open a dialogue in every episode of the Boondocks beneath this layer of satire. And LeSean Thomas plays on this again with the animated series Black Dynamite, which is blatantly adapted from the style of Blaxploitation film. And Blaxploitation in and of itself is an important era and style for Black American media, even if it literally kind of sounds like Black exploitation. Blaxploitation is one of those anomalies in Black media that's neither good or bad necessarily, because it doesn't exactly fit into Black respectability politics, but it also isn't going to be the shining example of social revolution, and most of the time it's just going to be trashy B films. But the fact of the matter is Blaxploitation is supposed to be real as fuck. Blaxploitation targeted Black youth in the late 1960s, and it was made possible by the rising political and social consciousness that was still a hot topic at the end of the civil rights movement. This was a source of counterculture to the mainstream, which translated into a large Black audience thirsting to see their full humanity depicted on screen with all of its flaws. And the characteristic that all of these new Black films shared was their attunement to how Black reality was so uniquely understood. This world and the persistent historical confrontation of racism historically defines the Black experience even through fiction. But there's something that hits completely different when Black media is inspired by themes beyond this sour reality. And when LeSean Thomas starts bringing in themes of magic and fantasy and futurism, we start to tap into all of these alternative genres that really open this new era of imagination for Black media, and we really got to see this potential happen in Children of Ether. And this is truly an underrated work of art through the medium of animation, but it's almost criminally too brief for what it means to show this kind of art style. LeSean Thomas is speaking to a specific crowd of Black nerds and geeks and sci-fi fans and anime lovers, with designs influenced by urban steampunk steampunk and assassin-like choreography, Children of Ether has the essence of other anime legends, like Cowboy Bebop and Bleach and Gurren Lagann, and even the well-rounded, comforting tone of Ghibli films that preserves a kind of innocence in the grime and grit of a post-apocalyptic New York City. Children of Ether is so uniquely characterized with the way that it oozes with stains of culture, and it shows the strength of community and the rugged edges of what solidarity can really look like among the marginalized, their families, and those left behind. LeSean Thomas is on to a certain message with this Afro-futuristic style, and I believe he finally got a hold of it with Cannon Busters despite the unforgiving critics. I still think that Black anime fans really fumbled the ball by not supporting this great masterpiece and breaking the standards of what anime is outside of Japan. So let me revamp my old testimony of the untapped brilliance of Cannon Busters. This is one of those Netflix original animes that was actually brought from a comic book that LeSean Thomas has been working on since like 2005. Cannon Busters is his fucking baby. And from its wild exposition and the style of its tattooed and android characters, this desert punk cyber aesthetic world was definitely meant to be memorable. So our main character, Philly the Kid, is this foul-mouthed renegade with a fucked up past, along with an even shittier curse that automatically resurrects him every time he dies, which kinda happens pretty often. But Philly still leaves a trail of enemies and dead men in the dust with his shotgun and his super mech hot ride Bessie. But Philly ends up getting ambushed into this aggressively upbeat friendship with Sam. And Sam is the special associate model droid from the Afro-futuristic kingdom of Boudica. And when I say Sam is aggressively polite, I mean she's aggressive. She wants everybody to be her friend, and friends help friends, right? But that's all just part of her programming from where she was created in the kingdom of Boudica that's currently under attack with all of their royalty abducted. So she hooks Philly onto her quest to find our missing prince, the damsel in distress Kelby. And every episode builds on each character's interactions and reactions, developing each other's worlds and perspectives as royal servants or as outlaws. But it's all part of finding out what it actually means to be human in this world, while also trying to develop what personally matters to each person's story and individual values. So that way they can break through the expectations of their fate and destiny, whether that's through programming or some ancient evil curse. The way this climax was developed by the end had so much potential for each character, but the negative feedback made everything fall flat, which brought production to a standstill and left a very bad taste with LeSean Thomas's reputation. But I can never understand why, even with all the flaws that people might nitpick in LeSean Thomas's work. It's a fact that anime fans of all races and backgrounds watch absolute trash every season. And even if the robots and magic wasn't everyone's cup of tea, Cannon Busters seemed to actually get busted because it didn't meet the expectations of perfection.
And let me just add that I did see Annie Prop's video that was talking about how Cannon Busters was the greatest anime scam ever because LeSean Thomas and his team totally failed to deliver on the rewards for a lot of their major donors. However, even in his own review, he admitted that it's not as bad as even the haters want it to be. It's just average at best. So where does all of this hate come from?
And it sucks because we already have a media climate with everything that's even slightly melanated get shamed for blackwashing or woke baiting. And having thoughtfully and meaningfully diverse characters is so rare, especially when they're not just pandering in the genres of science fiction and fantasy. I don't want to lose that magic that we've always had before we even get a chance to grasp it again. Especially when I see people being turned away from Black animation that doesn't meet the mainstream aesthetic. I'm just saying that there has to be space and grace for Black animators to even produce mediocre work that's at least well-intended, so that way other creators have the chance to build on that hope to make even better media. But this whole conflict happened again with the animated series Yasuke. That was supposed to be such a respectful recognition for Netflix anime to portray the first Black samurai Yasuke with one of the most acclaimed animation studios of this generation, MAPPA Studios. And it was so so freaking exciting and validating because these are based on real events and stories from Japan that all happened under the infamous warlord Oda Nobunaga, who actually knighted this enslaved African as an honorable samurai. This is literally inspired by Black history in Japan. But admittedly, the story does deviate from the limited existing records of this first Black samurai and expands this adaptation into an epilogue of Yasuke's experiences, mixed with affairs of magic battle adventures to save this lost prodigal child, and of course the ever controversial incorporation of giant arcane-powered fighting robots. And even though I love this anime series, I can be real that around the time that this show was coming out, there were whole new peaks of new generation anime styles that were raising the bar from anime, especially from MAPPA Studios. What people really wanted was essentially Vinland Saga, but the Black Samurai version of that. And I can't even blame them for desiring this realistic, brutal power fantasy, instead of a family-friendly rescue mission with Russian bears, spirits, and golems that don't even match the tone of the current historical era. But I still think these added elements at least gave Yasuke a more layered character that had this pensive and gentle outlook beyond just being a historical figure. This is supposed to be a story of a man who was stolen from his kin and brought into another country's war. And Yasuke is trying to maintain his honor while society and technology drastically change around him. But it was just so much more disappointing when it wasn't just backlash from racist trolls, but also other Black and POC anime fans who downplay or over-criticize Black media that's made by us and for us. And once again, I am not saying that we have to blindly like everything that's made by Black people. We can still be critical of the content and the pacing and the character designs, etc. But I really want people to have greater literacy to appreciate the efforts of Black creators, even when it doesn't fall within our expectations. Because I think it's important to support our own perspectives of our own representation, instead of having our stories told by other people, even when they have the best intentions. Because I'm gonna be real, Japan has definitely taken a couple shots at appropriating and appreciating Black characters in anime. Remember what I said about Blaxploitation being this important era in Black American media? So what the fuck is Afro Samurai supposed to be? Takashi Okazaki started drawing African American characters when he was in his teenage years, and he was inspired by his fondness for hip-hop and soul music, and fusing ideas from American media depictions and stereotypes of the Japanese samurai. And Okazaki developed a design for Afro Samurai that was actually based on the first Black samurai Yasuke. It took him 3 years to develop the anime miniseries along with his buddies, and for shits and giggles, they made these little figures of the Afro Samurai to hand out. And this happened to catch the attention of Samuel L. motherfucking Jackson, and this blew up into this creative collaboration with Gonzo Studios doing animation and the Wu-Tang Clan doing music production. Each episode of the miniseries cost $1 million fucking dollars to create. All for this dramatic, gunslinging, justice-avenging plotline? Bro, this high-quality shit made Naruto look like actual child's play. And having Samuel L. Jackson's vision fine-tune the storyboard that's based off of Black culture that he was also a part of really matched the rebellious counterculture that inspired the Afro Samurai character. There's something about Japanese animators who sees the confidence of the outcast who visually stands out against the homogenous masses, and carries an almost dangerous social awareness against the status quo, with the drive of the underdog and this almost magical strength that's often fantasized about Black people. But these themes reach us cultures across the world who don't even know how our history has created these stereotypes. Japanese animators have still been able to recapture this passion for Black culture in the same way that Black nerds have captured the passion for Japanese animation. Also, honorable mentions to the newest animated Black female character, Annette from the Castlevania spin-off, whose redesign as a feisty and fiercely beautiful Haitian revolutionary got all the gamer boys clutching their white supremacist pearls because they blackified their damsel in distress. But I argue that there's greater accuracy in the messy history of colonization and literal slavery that's all set during the French Revolution and one of the most diverse time periods of that century. So of course I have to give props to the writers for adding this beautifully Black-inspired character to the sexy world of vampires vampires in the Castlevania timeline. That's how you do Black representation right, without having to pander and actually connecting to their history. And this love affair between drastically different cultures has been going on way before Funimation practically raised a whole generation of anime lovers in America. And it goes back to the original concept for the anime Nadia, Secret of Blue Water. And this is a secret gem of this Atlantean princess who was found in Africa, all conceived by Hideaki Anno, the creator of Neon Genesis Evangelion. Hideaki Anno's original sketches of Nadia's design were intentionally with African features like kinky hair, but some of these aspects had to be changed in order to really relate to Japanese audiences more. But these intentions are also what I'm talking about when you solidify someone's character with their racial identity in this world as well, even if they might not be from this world. Nadia has clear encounters with the Black experience that excludes her from society. And Nadia's expressiveness as a main protagonist instead of as a side character is so heavily driven by her rejection of the industrial, exploitative Western world, and this compulsion to return to her homeland that was literally stolen from her and reconnect with her people's ancient power. And this personal touch that's rooted in these characters' identity and background is what I believe my favorite animator, Shinichiro Watanabe, does right every single time. And Shinichiro Watanabe has this worldwide eclectic taste for absolute banger animations. So let's give Michiko and Hachin their flowers for being my all-time favorite anime to review with all of its Afro-Latina glory. This Cleopatra Jones-inspired Foxy Brown delinquent really shook the table with her vibrant and rebellious personality as this sensual Brazilian woman with a temper and a soft heart but no fucks left to give. And she's fighting to protect what's hers after a life where so much has been taken away from her. And let me just say, it's exhausting still having to push back against the anti-blackness that denies that part of Michiko's identity, as if we all ain't descended from the same African slaves that were dropped off the same boat at different islands. Solidarity is recognizing the aspects of our shared experience and a world that was built off of colonization and slavery. And these systems of oppression against Black and brown people is what creates characters like Michiko, who are sexualized and criminalized, abused, and abandoned until they build this unbreakable shining shield around all of their vulnerabilities that seems so freaking cool at first, but is flawed and mourning and longing for family and love. Michiko finding her lover's child Hachin and bonding with her through all of the high-speed chases and stubborn arguments is all for the sake of trying to get a better life for them both, and it redeems Michiko by making her life's destiny her own choice. These are themes that go beyond Black representation or anime plotlines and tropes that are fundamental staples of just good writing. And the storytelling from Shinichiro Watanabe humanizes and actualizes these diverse characters. And he does this again in the new generation of anime, music, and futurism with the anime Carole and Tuesday. Carole and Tuesday anime skillfully tackles issues of classism, racism, and identity, and a society wavering through technological advancements and dependencies, and planetary political corruption. All behind the story of two girls who meet in a city on Mars, with a piano and a guitar and dreams that can change the future. I actually recommended Carole and Tuesday as one of my favorite anime of the year when I first started my channel way back in 2019. And you know my heart melts at the rarity and relatability of actually having Black girls represented in anime. And I doubled up on my recommendation when I added Carole and Tuesday to my top music anime list of all time. It had amazing music composition that was actually tied to each character's talents and background story. The media can play an important role when it's not just distracting the population, and can act as a window to different perspectives in a society so drained of creative freedom. Plus, it's not like there aren't wars burning in a not-so-distant planet known as Earth. While Tuesday is this whimsical, hippie, coquette daughter of an interplanetary dictator who is all up inciting an immigrant crisis and deep-state corruption, Tuesday just runs away from her ultra-right-wing, xenophobic, emotionally abusive mother to slum it in the city and fulfill her artistic dreams. But the contrast of the thoroughness of Carole's character speaks volumes to the conditions of this society and how politics and privilege which almost tear apart the friendship between Carole and Tuesday. Carole is more than just an orphan from Earth living as an artist in a city on Mars. We learn that Carole was a refugee who was separated from her family after her father was unfairly incarcerated on Earth after her mother passed away. And even though Carole was able to escape, many of her childhood friends ended up growing up to become revolutionaries, using their music as this counterculture weapon against the mainstream that's been taken over by AI controls that practically write every piece of media without an ounce of creativity from any kind of person. No matter how much passion they have, there's just this bit of soul that's missing, let alone all of the misinformation in the media from all of the brutalities. While political leaders like Tuesday's mom spew this Trump-like rhetoric that's racist and anti-immigrant and encourages discrimination, and ultimately encourages violence against these poor people and political dissidents who are most likely going to be black, brown, and queer folk. Shinichiro Watanabe really expanded these diverse identities in this anime, and reignites this belief that music and community can actually bring real change, and actually bring change to people's hearts and minds too. Their music isn't to just entertain, but to unite people from all backgrounds, as it always has. And diversifying all the experiences that are represented in animation and in media is all about connecting a very real past with a very possible future, along with our new imaginations. These are the ultimate legends that inspire new perspectives, especially for Black creatives. And they bring new untold stories to the world of anime. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to join the Sister Punk family. Comment down below with your favorite Black anime characters. And for more Blackity Black anime reviews, go ahead and check out my playlist. You can follow me on my socials, links down in the description. Thanks so much for watching, y'all. Peace.